Good evening, Final Fantasy Randomizer fans. Welcome to Game 2 of this Top 4 of the Final Fantasy Randomizer 2020 Co-op Tournament. My name is Jat2980, and I'm joined in the booth tonight by my co-commentator and current opponent, Danny3883. How are you doing tonight, Danny?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm really excited for this race. This is race 2 between these guys in week 3, and race 1 was really, it was super close. It was really exciting. It had one heck of a finish, and I look forward to seeing how these two teams, how this turns out today. Hoping for a game 3, so we'll see.
Absolutely. We have just two fantastic teams here. We have Team Thunderalo on the right, Thunder top 4 in the spring tournament versus my seemingly obvious victorious rival, Sir Linkalot. And on the other side, we have the Upstarts coming off a tough Game 1 loss of Gregglypuff and Dang Wu. Danny's just about to drop the gate here, so we should be off any moment here. But if you're just joining us, this is co-op. And co-op's a little bit different than things you've seen in the past. So if you have any questions along the way, we'll do our best to explain, but please feel free to add it in the chat. I already see Cyranus, for example, calling out me and Bert's favorite strategy, 2 Black Mage and White Mage. But if you want to know why items are appearing or what's shared and what's not, or what the victory conditions are, please feel free to ask in the chat. But Danny and I will do our best to kind of proactively answer things as they come up. And with that, the gate is dropped, so we will be off shortly. Danny, anything in particular that you're looking forward to in the seed, or something that you want to see?
I know a lot of times people are a little, want to see, things be a little harsher for runners, and, I'm a little bit of the opposite. I'm hoping, good things in the seed for these guys to make it a little easier, but, yeah, looking at, say, we dropped the gate, should be starting here soon, so, my stream's a little behind. Oh, yep, my stream was a little behind, so...
And that's a really interesting first room. So we have the Agama floor in Corneria Castle right off the bat, and that's got a lot of chests. So you might see some runners doing some save and go through that to try and get some early gold. But right off the bat, we had a decent-sized gold chest in the first room there, which you can go to without an encounter, as well as level 1 warp. So why is warp so important in this particular flag set?
Warp is really important, I mean, in any flag set, but especially these, because you never know when you're going to get into a dungeon that is very deep and not have a way out, because with Floor and Entrance Shuffle, you could enter a dungeon that has 3 floors, 4 floors, or you could be 10 floors down and then have to carry everything out. But when you have warp, especially level 1 warp, that makes that a lot easier. You can get out with your levels, you can get out with any gear or anything else that you find, and not have to worry, like I said, running out. And at level 1, the higher your levels are, the more, charges that you're going to have. So finding warp, especially in this flag set, is a big sigh of relief for anybody who's running.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have warp's older brother, although not necessarily better, an exit as well. So all of the mobility spells that these runners are going to need are available at level 1, and that's going to make early dungeon dives a lot safer. They can not only use, the strategy that you'll see, which is when they get an item, wait for their partner to receive it, which we'll get into a little bit later, but they can also just exit out at any time, saving those levels, saving those shards. Now, notably, there's no consistent sweeper at level 1. So by consistent sweeper, I mean something like Fade, or Lit 3, or Nuke. But we do have Quake, which can work in a pinch and will be especially effective against certain enemies. The other thing that I want to note right off the bat is that, they're just going to have a little bit of trouble potentially getting the first few kills, but that could be mitigated quickly if we find another town quickly. So I did touch on a few different things, including towns and shards. So let's start maybe with shards. What are we looking for to win this seed?
In a normal seed, we have the 4 Fiends. You have to beat the 4 Fiends to go into Temple of Fiends Revisited to, beat Chaos, win the game. With Shard Hunt, we've taken those, the 4 orbs that you would light with those Fiends, and we have replaced them with, shards, as we typically call them. They get called something a little different in every seed. But you have, in this case, we have 32 this week. Each player has 32 that they have to find. Once they have those 32 and the needed key items, they will be ready for the end game. But unlike co-op before, when we have the fiend kills that are shared between teammates, shards are not shared. So you will be able to share information with your partner when you find shards and where locations are, but you will have to find them on your own.
So speaking of endgame conditions, yeah, exactly what you're saying. We did find the endgame dungeon, which is also ironically the first dungeon in the game, in Temple of Fiends, in its vanilla location. So with entrances and floors shuffled, you might be finding things all over the place, but in this case, Temple of Fiends is just in Temple of Fiends, and we will be coming back here at a much later point in order to go back into the past and defeat Chaos. Now, another notable thing, which is that we also have found a Saria grind, and that Saria grind is going to be a very good way to get some early levels with Quake. So we're going to have to see how many of our runners take advantage of that, as we see Greggly Puff doing that right away.
Yeah, and it's definitely, if you have like something that early that you can do it in like a low level, get some quick levels right at the start, especially with, you know, warp, you're able to get like to warp right out, and then you're right there Canary and can save. It's a really smart idea. Those higher levels are going to help you get through different parts of the games a little easier. So like, I like that play.
Yeah, I agree completely. Co-op definitely rewards the early levels are better than late levels scenario, as every wipe it just gets more and more costly, and that grind is so safe with exit and warp. It makes a huge difference, as there's nothing worse than spending 2 or 3 minutes trying to grind and then dying on the way out. Now this one's so close to the entrance that it wouldn't be too risky, as I believe there's only one encounter causing step that they would have to make, but you know, that could be a big issue if it was a little bit deeper, and exit and warp gets rid of that problem.
Yeah, even with just that one encounter, like it's a small chance, but it's still a chance. And the last thing you want to do is just like get, like you said, get that one encounter after taking like that grind and wipe and lose all those levels. So seeing exit or warp like that early and then a grind tile so soon are like really, really great early game.
Especially with another flag that is unique to week 3, which is that we have deep towns on, and that's going to make it even more difficult potentially for us to find some additional magic. So something like Nuke might be level 2, but unfortunately Provoca is not Provoca. So we might not be getting that until we get the Canoe or even the Floater. So being able to find a grind we can take with the spells we have right now to get some early levels so we can have more warp charges, have more exit charges, even have more quake charges as it is an inconsistent spell, is a really important way to start off a seed. And that's definitely something that Bird and I have really tried to like review while we've been going through seeds. It's like, did we take an opportunity to get some levels? Because every wipe is just so costly when you have to dive back to get shards and levels. So getting early levels is really important.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like you said, like the last thing you want to do, especially since shards aren't shared, like or gear or anything like that. Like if you find a key item and then you wipe, that's fine because your partner's gonna have it. But once you know, if you like gear or shards and like that, the last thing you want to do is get deep into a dungeon and lose it.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna say the same thing you were. So.
Thunderalo has found Canaria Castle right after Toph, which is extremely convenient, and finds the Canoe, which is one of 2 critical movement items that the runners are going to need to unlock most of the entrances, Mirage and the On-Rack dungeon notwithstanding. So the Canoe is going to immediately open up 3 new locations. It's going to allow the runners to go to Volcano and Ice Cave, as well as kind of trickily Ordeals.
And also got, I believe it was the cube from Sarah, which in these flags, you don't need the chime to enter Mirage and then need your cube to get into Sky, because with Floor and Entrance Shuffle, you could really run into cube block anywhere, and that cube could very well block your progression into, you know, we have deep towns on, so it could block a town you need to get into, or block a key item, so finding that early so that if you run into cube block is really good.
No, definitely, yeah. There's nothing worse, especially if it's down a few floors, like Q-Block being on the first floor. That gives me a little bit of nightmares from our last seed. But Q-Block being on the first floor is generally not the end of the world. But if you go down 4 floors and then you get Q-Block, you have to go all the ways back down later if you do end up needing to go there. So having that cube and the rod as well in your back pocket is super nice.
Yeah, it definitely is. That way you don't like run into areas that you don't have access to and then have to come back. Double dipping areas for any reason always feels a little bad, so...
Yeah. Speaking of double dipping areas, there is one flag I want to highlight that's changed if you watch the first few weeks of co-op, which is that we now have Marsh locked in place of Canaria locked, and that is just such a pain sometimes, because Marsh locked means that you can get all the ways down to the bottom floor of a dungeon, and then you can clear half of it, and then you have to come back later for a key item, which could be, say, the loot, which you need to win. So Marsh Locked for Canaria Castle Locked is a big additional extra exploration flag, so definitely something to keep an eye on if they do end up finding that without the key.
Dangwoo finding Canary Castle, and he just got his canoe and cube. And Sterling finding a ribbon on that Agama floor, which I believe Thunder had previously found. So that's another thing that is like, I mean, you're happy to find a ribbon any time of the game, but the sooner you find one, the happier you're going to be that you found one. So...
yeah, and Gregory Puff picking up as well. A ribbon, yeah, absolutely essential. We don't have life yet, but a ribbon on a life caster can make a huge difference against something casting, a bunch of cracks, or if you get like something nasty that just is spamming insta-death spells, having your life caster, having a ribbon in the early game is going to be huge, especially because most of our runners already have pretty good levels here. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're finding a lot of key items already so far, like with the King and Sarah with our canoe and our cube. We found Sky 2 here. Dang just found Sardas. So like we are finding a lot of key items really quickly, which is good because there you go. We got our bottle off Sky 2, which the Sky was incentivized, and we got the TNT from Sarda, and like so like having all of those things are really good and handy to find also early. That way when you're diving other places, like you have those items and you don't have to, potentially go back because you found, say, Gaia and didn't have your bottle and then have to go back. But like if they find it now, they've already got it. So
yeah, definitely. Now, one thing we haven't found yet is we've checked a number of entrances as another town. Well, we did just find Onrak on Dengwu's side, but level 7 magic's not exactly what we're looking for. By a town, I specifically mean one of the first, probably 3, but ideally even one of the first 4 towns. Will give them a better idea of the type of magic they have to work with, as Dengwu finding a critical spell in Onrak in life at level 7.
Slot 2 though, so gonna be White Mage learnable. And I'm not sure, I don't think we even have red mages this seed, so not a problem.
I was going to say, I believe one of the Thunderalo, I was going to point out the party comps, because I did believe that, I think Thunder, or Sir Linkalot was running a red mage, one of the 2 were, but that will be not learnable by the red wizard either, so that's a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, so that with that red wizard, a red mage or red wizard, they're going to hope that they find, that life 2 somewhere, and that it's red mage or red wizard learnable. Found a Vorpal 4 on Marsh Top, which I know. Regardless of how you feel about your swords, anything that you see that's got a +4 on it and it's an in-game sword, you're going to be smiling real big.
Oh yeah, the Vorpal 4 is a fantastic sword, especially for these current clamps. So our bosses are 100% to 300%, 310% for every single one of their stats. So they're all going to roll above vanilla. And that means that critical hits are more important than ever because they're both a hit as well as the fact that they're going to, half the damage is going to ignore all armor. So it doesn't matter if that fiend has a huge amount of absorb, you can cut right through it. And the Vorpal, of course, the Vorpal +4 is probably going to be the best crit weapon they find. A Katana 5 would be better, but no one's running a Thief, so that Vorpal 4 going to be an excellent endgame sword against at least the last 3 fiends, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them wielding it even against Carry and potentially even Lich.
Yeah, in chat, Classic Gamer pointing out that he believes they found Bahamut, which we have seen Bahamut, I am pretty sure, on both screens. But yes, as soon as they get that tail, I'm sure we will see a lot of people sprinting in Bahamut's location to get class change, out of the way. That's another thing that's one of those things. The earlier you get it, the better off you are.
The only exception to that, of course, is with the black belt. But currently, black belts are actually banned in this tournament to try and prevent a linear style of play. So the players can agree to it, but in this case, they did not. So no black belts, so therefore promotion as early as possible is definitely the strategy.
Absolutely. Which I think now with Greg clearing out mermaids, we've had just about everybody clear out mermaids, and we've got a decent amount of what our shards, as we were calling them earlier in the seed, they're being called chunks. So we've found a decent amount of chunks so far in this seed too, to have, it looks 4 to 5. I think around 4 to 5 is the average so far right now from what I've seen, and like have that many already at like just 12 minutes in. feels pretty nice in these flags.
I'm pretty sure I had 5 shards at like the hour mark last night. So yeah, I would take 4 or 5 shards at the 12-minute mark for sure. And I think that's partly because they haven't found a ton of towns, and they found some very chest-rich areas in both the Agama floor and Mermaid. So that makes a big difference. And speaking of chest dens, Dangwu finding Sky 3 in, I believe, Titan's Trove East or Melman, one of the two. This is a fantastic place to be with Warp, as you're just able to clear that out so easily and get tons of chests. It's also not a bad place to grab a few levels, as the enemies are very high experience, but with the spells they have right now, they don't really have tools.
I found the toy escape past that floor. Don't have the crystal yet, so good information to have. Thunder doing the ice loop, getting his chime. Another reason why we like seeing that warp super early makes that dive into ice a lot easier, because you can just go warp back up and then get your item and not have to worry about clearing it out if you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and ice is one of the special dungeons in this, and that ice is not guaranteed to be on the top floor, but it is guaranteed to be together. So that ice floor, as well as the floors below it, will always be grouped together. So they know that there's just a bunch of chests down there, but they're not worried about skipping out on something like the floater. Now, shards, especially with 32 needed to win, are going to be tough to come by. So, you know, they may choose to explore that at a later date, but they don't need to do it right now.
Yeah, everybody menus so fast, it's really hard to kind of like look and see exactly how many shards everybody has, but like I said, I've seen, I think Dang had like 4 or 5 a second ago. I know Greg and everyone else has picked up some, because like you said, they've all been like clearing out like really chest dense areas. So
yeah, I think I saw Thunder getting up to almost like 6 already, which is really excellent.
Yeah.
We're also seeing things like the Sun -1 sword, which is really nice. Yeah, Thunder up to 9 shards already, which is absolutely massive for 15 minutes in with no Fiend kills. Fiends, of course, will give shards proportional to their orb. So Lich and Carrie will give 2 shards each, Kraken and Tia will give 4, but Tia has a little something extra in front of it, in that Tia will be guarded by a guaranteed war mech. I kind of think it's funny that Tia is just like a repository of shards that's being guarded by the actual boss, which is war mech in this case. So not the safest 4 shards in the world, but definitely something that is a play that you'll see most runners making in the 32 shard category.
I mean, also, I know a lot of times people will take on that war mech for those extra like levels right at the end of the game. Plus, you get those 4 shards. But it can be risky. War mech's not exactly a pushover, especially not with these flags. So,
yeah. And we do find Provoca probably one of the most important spells, especially for a red mage. And we see some decent stuff. We see Wall, but no life, which is critical. But we do have Fire 3, so there's that consistent AoE sweeper. Not effective against everyone, but will be a nice complement, as it does open up all those undead packs, a number of other enemies, and just basically anything that's not even just neutral to it, you'll be able to take out with a few of them.
I think I just caught a glimpse of where he walked into a shop and then paused. Oh, okay, yeah. So I think we just found Gaia, which is good, because now we have the bottle, so we can do the bottle turn-in. On the Upstart side, while Sir Linkalot is taking on the pirates, so we can see what Vicky's got today.
So we're soon to see both Bicky, who has the key. That's an incredibly important item. A, it prevents double dips like we were discussing before, and B, it's needed to win the game. So the key is just a great item. It also unlocks tons of extra shards, possible shard opportunities in Dwarf Cave, in Elf Castle, in Canaria Castle. So the key is just a great overall item to find early, and we will soon see what the fairy has to offer us.
We also saw in the Provoca shop that the herb is for sale. I think it's just a little over 4,000, which is, nice and cheap, because sometimes those vendor items are a little pricey. So when you see one that's, affordable this early, puts a big smile on your face.
Yeah, our fantastic tracker tonight, Shadowed Flames, pointing out in our tracker notes that it is $4,330. So yeah, nice and affordable. Now, of course, I will point out that in co-op, there is always the trick, which we had to do last night, for example, where we sold the ribbon, bought the item, and then reset after our partner got it. So you actually can scam these shopkeepers out of their hard-earned cash. So expensive items aren't as big of a deal if you have a bunch of cash in terms of keeping it, but sometimes you do have to grind in order to get up to it. So a cheap item's still a big benefit.
Yeah, that little buy, save, buy your item and then reset out and get your money back. That's a handy little co-op trick.
Absolutely.
When you got to make sure if you've played way too much co-op that when you go to playing by yourself again, you don't accidentally do.
And Greggly Puff finds the crystal, which is very interesting, as Matoya has been found, which means that could very easily be the item that leads to our floater.
Yeah, because looking at our turns, we have the crystal still, we have the TNT, which we haven't seen Torbs, and we turned at the bottle already, and that led us to our key. So, and we have the herb which needs turned in, but we haven't found Elfland Castle. At least not that I recall. So, oh, well.
Commentary. Oh no, wait, no, that's
no,
Athos.
For a second there, I was like, no, that's the wrong castle. But for like a second there. But yeah, so needed a castle, found the wrong one. But yeah, one of those either could very easily be the turn-in that gets us our floater, or we could find something else that might be it.
Yeah, I believe Volcano and Ice Cave, unless that's where Sir Linkalot is right now, those two locations have not been checked. There's Crescent Lake was Provoca, which is where they just were. So still a few more locations, but Matoya leads to the Oxia, which is interesting because we have found Anorak. So just like in the vanilla game, the Oxia allows you to go past the Guardian of the Sea Shrine. But, of course, in this case, Anorak's not an Anorak, but we have found it. So that is another location that is available and could be guarding the most coveted floater.
Yeah, it's always fun when, you get the Oxiel and, you found Anorak, and then Anorak is, hiding. I always think it's a little funny when there's a town in a town, when you have, a different town in Anorak.
Oh, yeah. The legendary double town, the nested towns. That happened last night as well. We had Melmond in Anorak.
Yep. Now, a town within a town I'm good with. A split within a split makes me a sad Danny.
A split within a split, which leads to 4 towns. That is
Oh gosh. I haven't had that yet, but boy, if I ran across some splits that were either sea split into marsh split or vice versa, that were just super deep and awful and nasty and...
One thing I will point out that might not be intuitive, actually, is that deep towns actually lead to shorter dungeons. Because the towns are additional bottom floors, you're actually making it, and because normally there's nothing in between the top floor and the town, you're actually making it so on average the dungeons are going to be shallower. That means that exit and warp are actually slightly less important, but still very valuable. So deep town's not strictly a negative. And yeah, for recent crab cakes, yeah, you can have 4 towns because it has to be Onrak and then nested within Onrak is another town. So you can have 4, but that is the maximum.
Okay, now we've found Elfland Castle. And we have our floater, so the vendor item led to the floater.
Well, that's going to open up basically the rest of the entrances with the sole exception of the Mirage Tower. As Danny mentioned earlier, the Mirage Tower does not necessarily lead to Cube Lock, but it is still locked by the chime to even check that entrance. It just won't necessarily lead to Mirage. It's just the Mirage Tower is an entrance nonetheless. So Thunderalo...
We do have our chime though, so I think...
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let's see, where are you? Greg left the look to use. I wasn't sure if he was leaving, but I think it's one of those we're gonna go check the tiles, because in these, knowing where a good grind tile is, super helpful, really important. Thunder getting his crystal from the fairy.
Yeah, a good grind tile is really important because item magic is shuffled here, which means there's a lot of variation in terms of how ready for late game you'll be. Depending on what the item magic situation is, it really makes a difference on what level you'll feel comfortable in, as well as the magic locations. But in general, you're going to see runners going into Temple of Fiends Revisited probably minimum 29, 28, but it's often into the mid to high 30s, or low to high 30s are all going to be common numbers depending on various factors. That usually means that they're going to be taking a grind at some point for at least a few levels. And at this point, something like obviously eyes are always going to be great, but even like a big valuable undead pack could be really good with the super low level harm 4 and fire 3.
Yeah, both those spells would work really great on those. But yeah, like you said, I've seen people at least in these flags, and I believe we saw it in the last race with these two teams. One of the teams had went in at a little lower levels than the other, and you can definitely do these flags at the levels you mentioned, like a high 20s. I'm not quite that brave. I would attempt it and promptly just probably fall on my face, but
yeah,
like I said, some people are a little braver than I am.
It's very item magic dependent. If you
Yes.
have multiple casters of Ruse, multiple casters in Viz 2, you have something broken like a Temper Gauntlet or a Fast Helm, those all can make huge differences, or a Cure 4 or Heal 3 item. But without those, you're going to be seeing them going into the 30s in most cases. We do have pretty good armor so far, though. We do have an Ice 4 armor, a Flame 3 shield, so armor situation looking pretty good.
Yeah, we saw Gregley get the floater for Team Upstarts, and then saw Dangwoo promptly make a straight shot to go get his airship. So and then Greg's not too far. He's got a canoe down from Ice Cave, take a little trip through the river system, and then Team Upstarts will be in the air too.
Yeah, so pretty close race between the two runners, or the two teams at this point. Nothing, no major edge can be given at this point, as is usually the case here. What we're going to be looking at is shard counts throughout the seed, and especially as we get later, we're going to basically be looking at shards as well as levels as kind of the two deciding factors. But as Danny and I were just discussing, people could easily go in at lower levels, so people can still win even if they're at a level disadvantage, but no one can win with a shard disadvantage.
Dangwoo he's got his airship, and did one of the things that I like to do, like right after getting in the air, is doing the Matoya and Titans West check, because a lot of times I kind of feel like those two, if you don't kind of remember to do them really soon after that, they're easily forgotten. Unless you have really good notes, because you've already been in that area usually. So not finding much in the start entrance. Just Seafloor into Acardia. Just found the Sky Maze though in Titans East.
Yeah, actually exactly what you said. When Bert and I always will check, Bert will always check those entrances once he's done clearing out Volcano Ice, and if he hasn't already done those, if we haven't already done those too. So yeah, getting those out of the way early really just helps you check a continent off. And everything that you can forget about and get out of your mind in co-op is a huge benefit. As there's so much going on, you really need to simplify, otherwise it can become overwhelming. Speaking of splits within towns, we already have the Marsh split within Onrak, so maybe the Mega Dungeon Dream is not dead.
I feel a little bit like we should, depending on how badly this goes, we may need to apologize later. I mean, it's not gonna be that bad. They have warp and exit at level 1, but it still feels a little bad.
Yeah, you can't complain too much with warp and exit at level 1
Yeah.
in entrance floor shuffle. Gregglypuff does find Crescent Lake, so this will still have an item available. So we'll have to see what the sages have for us today. Meanwhile, Thunder finds the critical town of Elfland.
And lock 2 and nuke at level 3. That's super nice. Both spells you're gonna want, especially in these flags, and you're gonna especially nuke at a lower level. So to get both of those, that's really nice, especially at level 3.
Yeah, and it's a big boon too for that Red Mage to be able to get those casts of it. And critically, in Viz 2 is Red Mage learnable, although life is completely locked out of both Red Mages and Knights. So a little bit unfortunate, but I will take Invis 2 any day on a Red Mage, as having 2 casters of Invis 2 is huge, as it lets you get up to maximum evasion in only 3 turns.
Yes, and on Sir Linkalot's side, we got a bit of a lazy dwarf situation. Narek gave us the adamant, while Dang checks the Earth incentive and gets the opal bracelet, which is amazing. I didn't see how it rolled. We're working with blurs, so I didn't see how it rolled. Still usually something that's really good to have. And the blacksmith with our adamant turnip is the crown. And we have already found Astos, so we can easily do that turn it in 2.
The Sages, meanwhile, giving us the first of 3 dud items, as chat helping out saying that the Opal Bracelet is -1. So Opal Bracelet -1 is going to be the best armor that the Black Mages or the White Mages can equip, resistances notwithstanding. So that's definitely not a bad piece of gear to pick up, especially with White Mage only life.
Greg and Thunder both finding ordeals in the Mirage location. So both teams are about to get yet another key item.
Mhm.
Well, Dane goes to the Marsh Split, goes down in the Marsh Split and finds Melmond.
Oh, the dream is real. We have 3 towns. Come on, C-Split.
All right, Link's going Marsh Top. The dream is still alive.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, we're seeing all of our runners making good use of the Warp Spell in Ordeals. Of course, the Warp Spell not generally available at this point, but will let the runners backtrack if they know they've made a mistake. So careful mental note-keeping is important here.
So
Thunder gets through.
Yeah, and so level 5 fast, which is really a great spell to have. You're gonna want on your Black Mages, and once we have the Tail and Promotion lock, it will be Red Wizard learnable 2, and we've seen Temper at level 6, which, if I remember correctly, because I only got a quick glimpse at it, but I'm pretty sure it was Black Mage only, or Black Mage, Black Wizard only. So those Black Mages are gonna be doing, putting in some work.
Yeah, so the red, I think looking at our tracker notes, it looks like Fast was slot 3, which is going to be, of course, Red Wizard learnable, but Temper was Black Wizard only. And unfortunately, Fast is the less important of the spells to be Red Wizard learnable, as it's not, you need to cast it less, so having one Black Wizard up to cast it once is generally good enough, but still absolutely huge in case your Black Wizard goes down.
Yes,
but a little unfortunate.
Saw the key item pickup in Ordeals, and we have our loot. So with our loot and key, all we need now for Topher is to get our 32 chunks for each player. I mean, I'm sure there's other things they may want, like the Tail for class promotion, but the most important things to be able to do Topher are, your loot, your key, and your in this seed, your chunks. And right now we have the loot and key, so
yeah, absolutely. That is kind of item go mode, as you would say. But I do expect at least one item for them to heavily prioritize, and then another one potentially. So the item they will heavily prioritize is, of course, the Tail. With the fact that, we have some pretty good spells available only to the Red Wizard. It's going to be super important for Sir Lancelot, but it's also going to be critical for Deng Wu with his Thief, who's basically useless, which turns into a Ninja, which, as we've seen, Deng Wu often uses as a primary damage dealer. But the other item is we do also have an incentivized ribbon, and yes, they found 1, but 2 is very nice in almost all situations for both your primary damage dealer as well as your life caster. So I would expect them, if it's not too crazy, to go out of the way to make sure that they pick up that incentive ribbon as well.
Yeah, and Greg finding in the Marsh incentive the slab, and is now headed to the Marsh locked incentive to pick up either another key item or one of our I'm trying to think of a good word, just like our bonk items. Yep, there we go. We got a wood -5 shield.
That's a pretty good dud item. That's about as duddy as we get.
It's like if you're gonna get a dud item, you at least hope and a good item. And speaking of good items, we have found our second ribbon in Marsh Cave. So
that was not incentivized, which means there's at least 3 ribbons in this seed.
Which is going to be really nice to find, especially since, like you said, life and life 2 are going to be White Mage, White Wizard learnable only. Mm-hmm. So the more people you can slap a ribbon on, the happier you're going to be, because you're going to have that extra protection, especially going into Topher.
Mm-hmm. critical storyline from the last game, if you didn't catch it, was that Sir Linkalot actually got his knight zapped through a ribbon on Chaos. So ribbons only can provide resistance, which still has a 3 out of 256 chance of getting broken. So we'll have to see if that happens again tonight, but in general, these runners are going to feel much, much better with 2 or 3 ribbons on their party members going into Temple of Fiends Revisited.
Yeah, and speaking of, Thunder just got his ribbon, and it's also one of those things. Not only are you gonna like share information like on your shards and like good gear and stuff, but as soon as you find a ribbon, you are absolutely telling your partner, "Yo, I found a ribbon. Here's where it's at. Make sure you go get it."
Yeah, I think the only thing that makes you run faster in the ribbon is when you find a massive +5 in Waterfall, and then you see like everyone on the screen just go to Waterfall as fast as possible to make sure that you can get that great sword early.
We all in our race last night may have just booked it real fast in that direction.
Mm-hmm. But so far, 4 pull +4, good enough.
Yeah, and we saw Sir Linkalot get the rod from Astos, so now we have that location, because we know where Rodlock is, but we were not able to get through the Rodlock previously because no one had the rod. But now that Team Thunderlot has that, they can get past the Rodlock and see what is there, see if it's a location they need. Like with these flags, you don't actually need to kill fiends to like get through into to do Topher, but sometimes they make getting those shards or chunks in the seed faster because you can just kill Kraken and then there's an instant 4 shards.
Or absolutely.
Chunks. So a lot of times, even if you don't need to necessarily dig out some certain locations, you're still you like knowing where those fiends are just in case. It's a real nice backup. Speaking of, we just found Carry.
Yeah, Carry is actually a really important floor because it both has an incentive item as well as worth 2 shards. But yeah, exactly what you were saying, Danny. If we haven't found Kraken or Tia, that really ups the emphasis on exploring locations and potentially getting more key items, as missing out on those shards can be critical, especially as the shard count has continued to go up. If you're only 24 shards, you know what? You can skip a lot of entrances, but up to 32, you're really starting to push how many locations you need to explore.
Yeah, I'm going through some more Sarias to check this tile, or check this chest here right above Carry, which is incentivized in these flags, as Greg finds Lich. So we've marked off 2 of those fiends that we were talking about, and we did see Kraken earlier in the Earth location. So only fiend we're still missing is Tia.
Yeah, so one thing that you'll see these runners doing is that you kind of are always subtracting 12 from your shard count. So if you haven't killed any fiends, you're subtracting 12 from your shard count, saying, you know what, I need to get X shards from chests, and at that point I can just kill the fiends and get out of here. If you haven't found them all, sometimes you're debating not doing that, but for the most part, that's something that these runners are going to be doing. So finding those forest fiends really lets them commit to that, as Dang Wu finds a pretty important item in the tail in the Carry chest.
He didn't even bother with Carry, he exited straight out and is booking it towards Bahamut. And I don't blame him.
Yeah, I figured he would have the levels at this point to take down Carry, but I guess he wanted to make sure. It's interesting. I think if in my position, I would have probably waited till my partner got the tail, warped back to the entrance, and then just tried to kill Carry just to avoid the double dip. But this play does make sense as well.
Yeah, plus he has some, he has some really, good gear that he can equip on his knight and his ninja. And other things, once he does class promote, which, if he is a little worried about that Carry fight, will make it much easier. So
yeah, another thing you'll see runners often do is just, as soon as you get the tail, you just book it to promotion. The only time you don't do that is if you forget, me last night. Oops.
Or if you you get the tail first and you still you thought the last thing you find in the whole seed is Bahamut somewhere in the very last place you check, which always feels a little bad, especially because with your fighter or your thief, if you take them they class promote, once it's starting at level 15, they start gaining spell charges. And the higher they go, the more spell charges they have. So the sooner you promote those classes, the more magic you will be able to have on those. So Finding like Tail late or Bahamut late, it doesn't feel real good. So like seeing either early is really nice. So yeah, like I 100% don't blame Dang for like just bouncing out and just taking his promotion papers to HR and getting that promotion so he can use some of the things that he's found.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely a play that makes a lot of sense, and especially when I notice like kind of where his white magic spells are, so he may not have visited all the towns quite yet either, so being able to get that promotion and buy a bunch of spells makes a big difference as well. Now, another thing that has also happened is a few things. One, we see Grigglypuff getting lost in Proc-Gen Waterfall, the bane of anyone who has no spatial sense. And meanwhile, we've also found an Excal 4. So Excal 4 versus Vorpal 4 is kind of a tale of two extremes. The Excal 4 being one of the absolute best weapons for clearing out everything except for the Fiends, and the Vorpal 4 being the best thing to clear out, or maybe not the best, but one of the best things to clear out late game Fiends, but not nearly as effective against your regular enemies. So we're most likely going to be seeing a fairly clearly defined game plan between the two swords, where the Excal 4 will be swung for basically the rest of the seed by the night, and then the Vorpal will be swung for people who only have a single melee carry in Temple of Fiends Revisited against probably the last 4 fights. Meanwhile, Dang Wu may very well put the Vorpal on his Thief for the entire time and keep the Excal on his Knight, so he does have that option available to him.
Yeah, and same with Link with that, with that Red Mage, he could very easily put the Vorpal on that Red Mage with his Excal and his Knight, and then have 2 people who are swinging for the fences. And while we were talking about that, we had 2 trends. We found 2 things. We found that the Titans had, or not the Titans, the robot had the Ruby, which means we can now check Titans. And we had, the slab was turned in earlier, and we had a Lefane check, which left to 200 and some change in gold. But we did have another important find in Lefane, one that didn't feel real good to see, and I'm not even running, I just feel bad for those who are, is Ruse at level 8 in Lefane.
Ooh.
That hurts a little.
So why is that so important?
Ruse is an important spell. It's one that is gonna make your, especially your your white mage in this case, it's gonna be our only life caster. Gonna be able to take those hits in Topher without just getting obliterated by fiends who aren't so nice. So you're gonna want that as evasion to keep help with that white mage to last those fights a little longer. But at level 8, you aren't gonna have exactly a whole lot of cast of that. I mean, we are gonna go to at least in most cases, we go to pretty high levels, so you're gonna get a few casts of it, but it still feels real bad. Like, you're glad to see it whenever you see it, but it feels real bad seeing it at Lefane at level 8.
Yeah, definitely. Getting up those evasion stacks faster is just so important against some of those really hard-hitting fiends. But yeah, level 8, not the greatest. We did also find a second Vorpal 4, so all those things we were saying about, Vorpal 4 on potential secondary damage dealers, well, now even better, these runners could have the Vorpal 4 on both the Knight and Thief or Red Wizard against Chaos. So, what's better than one Vorpal 4 is 2 Vorpal 4s. Thank you, randomized treasures.
Yep.
Now, you might be noticing something, if you're paying very close attention, about where these good items tend to be located, and you're noticing that they're mostly behind the the trap tiles, and that's because we have better trap treasure on tonight, and that's a flag that makes it so that there's a weighting on the chest, so not all chests are distributed items to equally. It's more likely for better items to be behind in chests that are behind trap tiles. And speaking of trap tiles, oh my goodness, we just found 2 eyes. But that does mean that, you're seeing those Vorpals behind trap tiles. You're seeing the ribbons behind trap tiles, and for the most part, so.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was looking to see if, those eyes did anything, anything nasty. But no, he didn't see anything out of him. Just saw that they were hitting. So that, unless, they have something that we just didn't see, could be is a very good grind tile for later game when they want to start taking fights for those levels that they will need for Topher towards the end, the end of the game.
Interestingly, Grigglypuff still does not have any life magic on his white mage, so it looks like Dang Wu and Grigglypuff for the most part haven't really been swapping towns. This is something that I think is both it's a trade-off, right? It's about how much time you want to spend just flying all over the world, going to all the towns, getting all your magic, especially once you're promoted, versus trying to explore first and then get the magic later. And sometimes it's great, and other times it bites you a little bit in the butt, like what's happened to Greg Lepuff here. So definitely not an incorrect move, just a risk he was taking that unfortunately didn't really pay out for him, as he ended up with just a white wizard and now has to go find somewhere with life and had to exit out of that dungeon a little bit early.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, well, and there we go. Take a quick trip into the party member store, bring back your people, and we're good to go. Greg gets the bad news about... Or maybe we're not bringing back the rest of the party in the party member store. We're just running that white mage.
Go pick up Ruse, I guess, and keep on heading up. Our, once again, fantastic tracker tonight, Shadowed Flames, pointing out that we also have found our final fiend, Tiamat, in Titan's Trove West. So all the fiends have been found. So this is something that the runners now have in their back pockets for later, and that is very important.
We also have our third ribbon. We just saw the ruby turn in, and the incentive there in the Titan Trove was the incentivized ribbon. So we now have... Like, not everybody's got the 3, but we have found 3 ribbons so far in this seed.
And the third ribbon is actually something a little bit underrated. Something I was discussing with Bert the other day was that extra ribbon can be essential for the black wizards surviving a few extra spells. So yes, your top priority is your life caster for the non-final fiends. Your next priority might be your damage dealer, or maybe they're switched depending on the clamps. But often your black wizard is not going to be getting the first or second ribbon, but getting the third one does mean things like Inferno's not going to one-shot them. It's going to mean they might be able to survive a few casts of non-elemental magic, or that the Lit 3 after the nuclear doesn't take them out. And that extra temper cast or lock cast can be absolutely critical in these clamp flags. So 3 ribbons, still a big improvement, but the first ribbon is basically the best item in the game. The third ribbon's probably still a top 10 item, but not quite as important.
Yeah, regardless of where it falls on the list, I'm gonna be a real happy girl when I see it. So, unless it's one of these one of the seeds that we've seen that roll with like 4 ribbons or 5 ribbons, at some point, I mean, you can only put so many ribbons in people's hair and make them look pretty. Like, if you can only put 1 on there, after you get past 4, at some point, it's just laughing like, that's funny because we've got that many, but... Like I said, regardless, like, until you're past like 4, you're real happy to see that ribbon.
So our runners at this point mostly retreading ground that the others have done. At this point, they're really this is brain burn time to the maximum. This is when the runners are communicating to the utmost, saying, what do I have to do? Okay, here's my checklist. I need to get gear, I need to get shards, and I need to get spells. So how do I do that in the most efficient way possible when I've only seen half the map? And a lot of that involves talking to your partner, checking the notes, saying, hey partner, where's the best place for shards quickly? And then they'll say, hey, okay, maybe you need to go to these locations. And then you have to both correlate that, saying, okay, if I'm going to go there, what towns can I check when I'm in the area that I need to go to? Or what other areas can I do? All the meanwhile, you have to be telling your partner the exact same information to them, saying, where did I go that had good shards? And then when they ask me, what chest was it in, can I remember? So this part of the seed looks a little bit chaotic for the viewer, but this is the part where these runners are just working in absolute overdrive, trying to figure out exactly, how do we best get to the late game? Because at this point, they really have most of the pieces they need. It's just about putting them all together.
Yeah, like, absolutely, like, this part, like you said, of the seed is where, like, good teamwork and, like, really good communication with your partner is key, because having that is what's gonna get you through the game faster. It's gonna get you the information faster, the things you need faster, and the more, like, the more you communicate those things with your partner, the better off you will be as a team. So yeah, I'm sure there's a whole lot of talking going on right now in the voice chats with these guys, so...
Our tracker is saying right now that Deng Wu has a little bit of a shard advantage in general with around 17, but he has notably killed Kraken, so that does give him that bonus 4 that the other runners will be able to pick up relatively easily. Meanwhile, Greg falling a little bit behind Thunder and Link a lot, but not by much, so at this point it's still a very close matchup. Sir Linkalot also notably has to still promote, which does take a little bit of time as it is a relatively deep dungeon, and all these runners need to go buy a bunch of spells, kill a bunch more fiends. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Dangwoo's killed Carry, not Kraken. But regardless, there's still a lot to go on, so you're really going to have to be checking maybe in another 15 or so minutes about, what the shard count's like, who's ready to enter, who has their spells, and what time these runners are entering Temple of Fiends Revisited at.
Yeah, and something on Lich here just right before he left and he was in this dungeon. So I believe he's taking that too. And he's got a really good, like, especially it's still at the 48-minute mark. Like, he has a good chunk of chunks in there that he's found. So all of our runners pretty much do. Greg is a little bit behind everybody else, but he does have that information from Dang, like, hey, here's where these chunks are, here's where they've found these fiends. So Greg's taking levels now, but when he's done and he has his levels, he can very easily just run through like all those locations, pick up those shards where they are much quicker than having to initially found them, take out the fiends, and then just go straight for Topher because he'll already have his levels.
Choosing to pick the Sarias over the Eyes is an interesting decision. Now, the Eyes are actually a little bit, not overrated, but the reason they're strong is not strictly because they are the most experienced of any item in the any enemy in the game. It's just that they often have low health, don't hit hard, and if they don't have dangerous spells, they basically do nothing. So they're a very safe grind. I don't know. What do you think? Would you be taking the Sarias because of their availability? Would you be going somewhere else? And maybe people in chat, if you have any comments as well, like what would you be doing at this point?
I saw the Eyes. I know Greg didn't really try them too much because he was down a couple party members at the time. So I get why he didn't take that then. I before I would have picked another tile over that, I would at least tried to see how much HP they have, see if like they had anything that was going to make a grind there difficult that would make the Sarias safer. I mean, the Sarias are a good tile, and they are right there, right there off the exit, right outside of Canary. You can run in, you can save, run back in. But I don't recall Eyes being too far off the exit, or the entrance off the crates in which they were. Or no, I think they were in Waterfall. So I don't know. Like I said, I would at least have, maybe try the Eyes because I know that they are there, but
yeah, to be honest, I have opinions on this, but most of the time my decision on what tile to grind goes a little bit like, hey Bert, what tile should I grind on? And Bert's like, this is the clear answer, and I'm like, okay, perfect, that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I don't know which one I would
understand. That's exactly how I usually decide too, because my partner knows this stuff much better than I do. So I'm just like, tell me which one's better. And then whatever one he says, do that one. I'm like, got it.
Yeah, one seed he was like, what's a great tile to grind on? 4 worms, and I immediately went there, and they had 950 HP and didn't die to anything. So yeah, I guess that doesn't always apply, but generally speaking, yeah.
It's great in general, not this time though.
You're gonna want to know though, when picking the right grind tile is important, especially as we get to these higher clamps. If you're getting 10% more experience, that isn't as big of a deal when you're taking it 4 times. But if you're taking it for a few minutes, that can really add up and save you a minute before your Topher grind or your Topher entrance. So it is an important skill set, picking the right grind based off availability, the experience, and safety in this particular flag set. So Shadow Flames, our tracker in chat, pointing out the unofficial chunk count, really showing that there must be a few dungeons that have a large number of shards because of the big discrepancies between partners, not even between teams. There's a little bit of an edge for Thunderalo at this point, just an overall shard count, but you can see that Link and Dang have about double the shards of Thunder and Greg. And that probably just means that there's a few dungeons with a large number of shards, and there's another dungeon which was long, but was ultimately fruitless, or maybe just led to a key item. So you're going to see that gap close rapidly once these runners enter. I just need to get as many shards as quickly as possible. And you're going to see them start diving dungeons, opening 5 chests, getting 5 shards, and getting out.
Yeah, you can. It's really easy to tell, like when towards the end of the game, like if you hadn't noticed something before, but you see like somebody run in and only check specific chests, or like they'll check like a certain one or two, and they'll before them. It's like check these chests, but only these chests, and then get out, and then that way they're not wasting time like looking for the other ones.
Yeah, I have on very good sources and excellent authority that Dangwoo has no memory to speak of, so therefore he tells Gregory to open all the chests. Well, Gregory has like near photographic and can tell Dangwoo exactly what chest to open. Not throwing any shade, as that was Dangwoo himself who told me that. So you'll sometimes see people opening like entire banks. Other times you're just going to see them opening a single chest, but most of the time they're not going to be clearing an entire floor.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was there for that conversation. Can confirm. Things like I remember nothing. To which I was like, don't feel bad, buddy, because neither do I.
Yeah. So yeah, you can see that like Sir Lancelot is on to killing Lich, and usually when you start killing fiends, you're either in the area or you're in a mode where you're like, okay, I'm in my last kind of final stage, and that's exactly where I believe Lancelot is. Because once again, 24 shards. That means I need 8 more, and because I need 8 more, that means I'm going to kill Carrie, Lich, and either Kraken or Tia. That's kind of the math that you're doing in your head as you're going through this. So Lancelot's definitely on that plan, and this does look like he's kind of on pace for a round and 1 hour Temple of Fiends Revisited entry, depending on his grind. If he goes higher, he's going to be a little slower, but at this point, he's going to get his shard count and enter like go mode relatively quickly.
Yeah, and I just got a good look at Dings, and he's at 23. So when it comes to, the chunks, he is right behind Link, and I think that's why he's so close right now to that, to the 32 that he needs it has information on, where certain fiends and things are, that he can maybe get those extra chunks that he needs. He's going to be able to get them fast. So he's stopped the chunk search, and he's joined Gregory taking its areas for those levels that he's gonna need for endgame.
Yeah, both Gregory and Dangwoo are in much better level situation than Sir Lancelot for sure. Thunder's definitely catching up rapidly because of this grind, but Thunder does not have a fantastic shard count like Sir Lancelot. So these runners all very, very neck and neck. As I said in the past, it's kind of shards plus levels equals where you are, but you can always go in earlier levels wise. You can't go in earlier shard wise.
Like there's always like the chance, like you could always dive early if you're ready and your partner isn't, and just do kind of like that information dive to where you know what's there, and you can let your partner know who's maybe has the higher levels and has whatever. By the time they're ready to go in, and they can go in and they'll be able to do it, and you can maybe go out and get those levels. I mean, I'm not sure that's a play I'd make, but it's definitely a play that if you want to risk going in at those lower levels, you definitely have that opportunity to, like, if it doesn't work out, you at least have that information going back in, and information you can give your partner.
So we have some really I completely agree with everything you just said about the information dive and things like that. Now, I did want to point out we have some really interesting contrasting grinding strategies here between Thunder and Greggly Puff. So Greggly Puff and Dangwoo are keeping 4 party members up, while Thunder is piling levels onto only 2 characters, his Life Caster and his primary damage dealer. Now, this strategy is actually something that I've shied away from, but Thunder is their team has been doing fantastic and is definitely a better runner than I am. So I don't doubt it. Now, there's pros and cons to this strategy, and I'm just a little bit more uncomfortable with the cons than I am with the pros. Now, the pros are that you're more likely to survive with your white mage and your fighter through more. You're going to do more damage, which means you can get through fiends faster, and those are all super, super important. The big risk is non-elemental AoEs take out your black mages early, and without a temper, fast, or lock item available, you can end up in a situation where you can barely kill fiends. So I have greatly preferred the 4-person grind over the 2-person grind at this clamp, but we'll have to see if this pays out for Thunder or not.
Yeah, he's definitely got really good levels now on that Knight and White Wizard, but that, and I see like the pros of doing that, grinding up those 2 characters, because that is your main damage dealer, that is your Life Caster, and then in this in this instance, it's your only life. It's gonna be your only life caster. But I'm not brave enough to do that 2-person grind and then go in with like the 2 people that have like my fast and different those things at lower levels. Granted, he still has a lot to do in this seed, so it might not have been a real bad idea in the seed alone, just because he still has a lot of maybe kind of ground to cover to get all the chunks that he needs, because he is still a bit behind. So he may still take a lot of fights, and then, depending on the fights he takes, he could be doing like Warmac with Tia, which is gonna potentially if he does that, get a lot of those extra levels he may need on those black mages. But it's still something I'm not brave enough to do. So kudos to you, Thunder.
The person with the shard disadvantage is more likely to kill Tia. That's always been the case in my seeds, and I'm assuming it's the same case on your team. Like, if someone's way ahead in shards, they're like, I'm just not going to kill Tia. Meanwhile, the other person is, like, desperately grasping at, like, 20 shards. It's like, Tia is definitely in the books.
Oh, yeah. Like, especially if it's gotten to, like, it feels like we've gotten, like, time and it's getting, like, closer, and you're feeling, like, that pressure to get those last few chunks or whatever it is you need to finish. And I feel kind of comfortable with my levels, and I don't think it's just going to be wiping constantly to Warmac to try and get those levels and, like, get those last 4 chunk shards or whatever they may be. I'm absolutely, like, I'll get those levels, and I am just, like, it's just like, where was Tia again? Because I'll be honest and probably won't remember. And I'll just be like, where's Tia again? And then I'm headed there and, like, hoping that, like, Warmac isn't horrible, and, like, I can not only take that fight for it and have those extra levels, but get those last 4 shards, because a lot of times it's just, as long as it's not, like I said, Warmac isn't horrible to get through, and Tia is just not super nasty or something, like, a lot of times it is much quicker to take those fights and get those last 4 shards than it is to hunt down those last 4 shards.
Yeah. Absolutely, I completely agree. So, you heard it here. If you're left in the co-op tournament, Spellzap and Bert, you can listen to both of our team strategies on these various things. And we can see right away here, actually, like, the difference between Gregglypuff, for example, versus Thunderalo. Gregglypuff's team is 32-31 across the board. It looks like he's String Frozen or taking a quick bio break, but he has 9 shards. Meanwhile, I think Linkalot is pretty close to go. I think he's at, like, Fiend Go mode, is, like, what I would call it, where it's like, I know exactly where all my shards are, I just need to go collect them. So Gregglypuff, a lot of shards to make up, but he will he will be ready to go as soon as he hits the shard count. Meanwhile, Sir Linkalot's had to take a little bit of a break and go grind these Sarias.
Yeah, I just noticed that, Fade level 8 and Gaia, which, when you're at these levels, anything that's, level 7, level 8, normally you wouldn't think twice about, because you're not really going to have the levels for it. In these flags, you're going to have the levels for it, and, that couple of Fade casts might get you through a Fiend fight, if all that, survives is your white mage. However, tonight, that Fade shares a slot with Ruse, so I don't think Fade's gonna be your Black Go plan if that's something that happens.
Spellzap pointing on the chat that the Vorpal +4 breakpoint is 39, so they're going to be just slightly behind that, unless they really grind for it. So that one-person grind may have worked in order to get the Vorpal up to 6 swings, which is pretty important. But it is unlikely at this point for any runner to do that unless we see a little bit of nastiness in Temple of Fiends Revisited, which is absolutely possible.
See, like I said, I'm not sure that it's Greg's stream that's freezing, but something tells me he's probably he's going over notes, and he's finding out where he needs to go to get, like, those chunks he needs to finish this out, because, he's done the grind. I'd say, if he stopped grinding, then I'd say, he's good. He's comfortable with his levels. Looks like he might need to do a little magic shopping. There was a lot of empty spell slots.
Yep.
But yeah, he seems to just be in, like, chunk search mode, and then
go.
Yeah.
So, as we enter the 1 hour mark here, I will give a quick recap if you're just joining. Oh, wow. So, yeah, this Sky Floor has just like 5 shards in it for free.
Yeah,
but-
it's so far.
Yeah. So for those of you who are just joining us, welcome. This is week 3, also known as the top 4 of the Final Fantasy 2020 co-op tournament. This is game 2 between Thunderalo and the Upstarts. Thunderalo won game 1 in a close matchup where there was multiple runners wiping, but ultimately Sir Linkalot entered just a little bit earlier on their first dive and therefore was able to complete their second dive before Greggly Puff. In this matchup, we've seen a close race throughout with different strategies being employed. Thunder's grinding 2 party members, Greggly Puff and Dangwoo grinding a little bit earlier. Meanwhile, Sir Linkalot got out to a huge shard lead. All the runners have explored most of the map at this point and are basically just in the act of getting 3 things: levels, and spells, items, and shards in order to enter the Temple of Fiends Revisited, which we're probably going to be seeing our first dives in fairly shortly here. We could be seeing it really any time in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So stay tuned for that. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask in chat. My name is Jat2980. I'm joined in the booth by Danny3883, and our tracker tonight is Shadowed Flames. Thank you very much, Speed Gaming, for having us for this semi-final matchup. So we hope you enjoy.
That was one heck of a recap, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Much better than I would have done. But yeah, we see, like I mentioned, Greg, seemed like he needed quite a bit of magic, is now not only, looking for all those chunks he needs, but he's stopping back in towns, picking up magic as he goes, and then dipping into places where he knows, based on where his partner has been, where there are chunks and he can grab them. And it seems like Thunder's doing a lot of the same.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they're actually in the same location. Close to. Yep, same location. Just slightly different floors.
Yep.
But yeah, so, and we've seen some chunks in these locations. I remember seeing just a bit ago, like you said, there was, I think, 5 chunks on like Sky 3.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I want to say it was maybe Canary Castle Locked had, I think, 3.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
At least 3. So, like, there is some places that you can very easily, like, you can see, like, Greg was really low, but, like, he's adding those chunks to that count, like, in really fast, and he's picking them up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got his levels are pretty good. Mm-hmm. And like if he keeps doing this, like even he like being behind with the chunks, even with that, like picking them up as quickly as he is, and same with Thunder, they're not gonna be behind their partners too far.
Mm-hmm. But you can already see a little bit of difference. For example, in that dwarf cave, Greggly Puff opened all the chests, while Thunder only opened 1. And that's just that difference in communication, Is it 1 shard here? Is it multiples? What chest is it in? And each of those saves a bunch of time, as Thunder's already gotten a ribbon, while Greggly Puff was down in dwarves, trying to open the rest of those chests. So these things will make a huge difference as these runners race to the finish.
Yeah, and Dang took his grinding eye in his left, and now he is taking on Kraken, which will get him 4 chunks, which will have him pretty close to being to that 32 that he needs for Topher.
Mm-hmm. Invis 2 on that night paying big dividends here, as his White Wizard did go down immediately, so this is not a safe fight by any stretch, but his primary damage dealer is still up in the Ninja for Dangwoo, but he is down to just 2, and he has no Invis casters left, and he is not doing enough damage. No Brack is available. This is not looking good. Resorting to slow 2 strats.
That he is. Not one you see often, but working out for him.
That is a huge play. As slow 2 is going to prevent Kraken from making those huge hits, and he's out of basically all healing. He's out of any ability for his ninja to survive. So really, that could be the critical play here. He could get through this still.
Yeah, that Quad X unfortunately didn't land, but that did let him know, the fact that it didn't land, that Kraken still had over 300 HP. So he switched to nukes, and he's gotten it down quite a bit. I'm guessing he uses that last nuke charge and then tries another Quad X. I was gonna say unless it takes out Kraken, the Kraken's still standing. So I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, how much he put into it? Oh, that's a big Kraken.
Yeah, getting really unlucky on this ninja not getting, unstunned, which is being like a big issue for him.
Getting off like some pretty decent rolls off that lit 3, and we have a Kraken down.
Wow, that was an incredibly good veteran move using slow 2 there, as he knew that he wasn't getting through that if Kraken could just continue to punch. So makes a big play, gets through. Now, that's not as critical, as something in the Temple of Fiends Revisited, but that's still a big time commitment if that went south. So great job to Dengu there.
Yeah, that was a really good job getting through that fight, which got him, some extra levels on that ninja and that black mage. He's gonna go back and bring his other party members up, and like I said, it got him those 4 extra chunks, and I believe he's, darn it, dang, start menuing so fast. It looks like he's about 4 away, I think. Oh, okay, 5 away. He needs those 5 extra chunks, and then he is Tofu ready. Which he's done, I believe, all the feats but Tia. So if he can just find like that 1 extra chunk somewhere, and then do, make his way through Warmac and take down Tia, he will be Tofu ready. We'll say as Thunder got just briefly bat blocked, which thankfully we have a flag for that now that quickly gets those out of our way.
All hail NPC Guillotine.
I know. It's like I'm so used to it now with co-op flags, like I just don't think I can go back.
Yeah, I know.
I love that flag so much.
Oh yeah, no, it's just such a beautiful quality of life. That and speed hacks never, ever can get turned off.
Oh, absolutely not.
So let's go to our boss clamps. So we are at 100% to 310% clamp bosses for week 3 here in the semifinals. And this does mean some pretty scary stuff is happening. We can have Chaoses with over 6,000 HP. We can have Krakens who have like 15, 16 punches. We can have all sorts of nastiness, which can just cause all sorts of trouble to our runners. So what are you going to be looking for here? The first thing I'm evaluating right now is item magic, and just the fact that item magic isn't really a big factor in the seed. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, I agree. We haven't seen too much. We did see, I believe it was an expert shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And expert can be a really great spell, especially like if you have, say, like you find a seed with like something that casts expert and then something else that'll cast frack. Like if you get real desperate on some of those later fiends, you can get expert land. It's a quick way to take down a fiend that you may not be able to get down otherwise. So that was really good to see. But yeah, like taking just a kind of, like you said, account, so like items, things like that you have. Just because, like you said, a lot of times, depending on what you find in these seeds, can make your later game was really so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's where we're standing for item magic. Spell-wise, we're in decent shape. No secondary life caster is pretty important, as like a turn 1 Kraken back row basically ends your dive. So, that's something you just got to cross your fingers for. But we do have multiple Invis 2 casters, which is extremely nice. We have multiple fast casters for people with red mages. We have a decent amount of temper charges, although not a ton. So we're in decent shape for magic, but notably only 1 life caster, level 8 ruse. Those could cause some potential problems if something like Kraken decides to be punch happy and take out a back row caster.
Yeah, Greg and Thunder with those 2 black mages are definitely gonna be better off with those temper, like the number of temper casts they're gonna have, because it was black with only. So, but they're gonna have, with their levels and with 2 casters of temper, they're definitely gonna have a pretty decent amount of temper charges, as long as they remember to buy it, unlike someone else who may be talking that completely forgot about it in their last race. Temper's good. Big fan, suggest it.
Yeah,
You know,
Temper's also especially important with the Vorpals in particular. The Vorpal really does need a little bit of a damage boost in general, so having a few casts of Temper available and getting them off faster will greatly increase the damage output. Now, I do also want to highlight Dang Wu, who only does have a single Temper caster. However, he also has 4 charges of Saber. He seems to keep getting seeds where his Knight can learn it, and that is really important for his strategies.
Link doing, like you said, like he's like you said, in that in-game, like going around, he's doing like that last bit of like magic shopping, and he's diving like places. Probably I'm gonna guess maybe Melmont, because head there, because that's where fast Quad X was. Yep, like I said, doing just a little bit of magic shopping. Originally, white magic wasn't too great at 5, but black magic was pretty good.
Thunder onto the Bridge of Destiny. So get whatever emote out you like to hope for a robot chicken friend, but you're not going to find one because we have required Warmech. So give them a few experience on the bridge, and we will be seeing a Warmech guaranteed. And 300% clamped Warmech, 310% clamped Warmech is no joke. He definitely has the levels to take care of it, but let's see if Warmech has anything. Now, critically, what we're looking for is spells. If Warmech has Cure 4, Warmech has a bunch of nukes or nuclears, that are spells out of the Temple of Fiend Revisited spell pool. So they do share, so definitely keep an eye out for that.
And while we've got Greg taking on Carry, we've got Thunder taking on Warmech. I just got a quick glimpse at it, but I want to say Dang Wu got his 32 chunks. Yes, he does, and I believe we got our first Temper dive at 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 40 seconds. Okay.
Quick check.
Just the quick check in the chest.
These are very valuable chests with better trap treasure on, because this is two things that you can get a Masa or a Dragon Armor, which they already have, or an Age of Shield.
Or our 4th ribbon this seed. Everybody on Dang Wu's party gets pretty hair today.
So if you're here first, not a bad thing to check.
Oh, absolutely not.
I think this is the first time we've seen, though, that, well, only 2 seeds, but this is the first time that the Upstarts have been in Temple of Fiends Revisited first, and it appeared that, Sir Linkalot had a huge shard lead. However, it was just the case that he hadn't gotten his levels yet, hadn't done his shopping yet, so while he's had to run around and do that, the Upstarts have kind of been right there all along. Now, Dangwu is a little bit lower level than some of the other runners, so we're going to have to see what this has in store, but this dive is so important to figure out what the heck's going on. So keep your eyes peeled to the bottom left as the rest of the runners just kind of continue to clean up. And meanwhile, Thunder threw Warmech. I did not see what that Warmech had, if anything, so hopefully someone in chat can fill us in on that.
Yeah, I was watching, and then I saw Dang going in the top, and I'm like, oh, got a little sidetracked. I don't recall seeing much out of Warmech, but I have a feeling that won't be the first one we see. So we'll get a second shot at it.
Here we go. First runner in Temple of Fiends Revisited. We have officially entered the endgame. Let's see what this has in store, and we can see wild variance in terms of spell distributions, in terms of hit points, in terms of damage. Now, wild variance in terms of from hard to very, very hard. There's not any easy paper tovers here, but we'll have to see what we have in store. I don't think Thunderalo is going to be far behind.
Yeah, just got a quick look at Thunder's screen. I believe he still is in need of 5 chunks. Okay, 4 chunks. Didn't see Greg's just now. Ooh, don't scare me like that, Greg. I felt bad. I watched our race back last night, and I was having controller issues. They kept going back to the character select screen, and I think I may have scared our commentators a few too many times that I didn't mean to do. Apologies to Dang and Ale if you're watching, or Dang watching this later back or Ale today. That was not my intention. Scared me too. Don't, you weren't the only one.
Yeah, no, that was always a little bit scary.
Yeah, with Thunder going for this Kraken kill, I believe that puts him at 32. I'm gonna guess because Link was so high that with this Kraken's kill, that'll put him at 32 also. Which just leaves Greg, cleaning up those last bits of chunks that he isn't gonna need because, we have seen him, okay, I was wrong. That puts Thunder at 30, or not Thunder, that puts Link at 30, so he still needs 2 more chunks, and then he will be in Tover.
But Thunder is exactly 4 away, so this will be his final Fiend 1 kill. I think he's already killed all the other ones, so that's probably why, but... yeah, we have a quick question in chat. While Dangwu takes on the first of the Fiend refights, Lich 2, how do you change your sprites? You can find out more about that on our Discord. However, yeah, essentially involves changing the base ROM before you randomize it, and then the randomizer changes a bunch of things around, including stats and things like that, but doesn't actually change the sprites. So that's how you can do it. And we do have a number of settings to make sure that they are tournament safe and are changing gameplay. As the speed bump goes down, Dangwu through to the second Fiend.
And Link going after Carry, which will give him those last 2 chunks that he needs to get through, so that he is ready for Temple of Fiends Revisited. While Thunder's still trying to get that Kraken down. His poor Black Mage is not quite making it through the fight, which makes me worry a little bit about them going through Tover.
Yeah, Brack was level 7 and a little bit inconveniently located, so most runners didn't end up getting, except for, I believe, Gregglypuff, who did Brack Kraken successfully. And here we go, Dangwu about to take on Carry 2 after he gets through a few more unrunnable Grey Worms. Not exactly who you want to be getting experience off of, but he actually will take the levels. He's only, the early 30s, so...
Yeah, more levels right now is definitely not gonna hurt Dangwu.
Now, will he rotate his party around? Carry 2 at this clamp can one-shot a lot of party members. Critically can one-shot that ninja. So in slot 2, this is not safe. Not that it's the incorrect play, it's just like this could go very wrong if Carry just punches the wrong person immediately. Now, the Knight is a good backup, but something that's a little bit scary here. Slow 2 comes out Carry is not weak to that, but can still hit.
We have Sir Linkley entering the Temple of Fiends Revisited, but doing that check of the locked chest. His teammate Thunder literally just maybe 15 seconds behind him. And on the top left, we have Greggly still looking, but only needs 4 more chunks. So if he's still, we've seen so many floors in many places, I don't exactly remember where he's at the moment and what it leads to. However, he gets those last 4 chunks and he will be in Temple of Fiends Revisited too. So we will very likely have all 4 of our runners there all at the same time. And if I remember correctly, there was quite a few chunks here in the armory. So this may get Greg the last 4 he needs. If not, he's going to get real close. I think we need 2 more. 1 more. I think. Yep, we still need 1 more on Greg's side. But we have both runners on Team Thunderlot in Tover as Dangwu takes on Kraken 2.
This can often be the first true gatekeeper of the Temple of Fiends Revisited, but getting some good turnovers so far. We'll have to see what happens here. Kraken punches 10 hits, but that Knight survives, and that's super important. Got off those Invis 2s, and those Invis 2s were the difference between that fighter living and dying, so really nice to get some turnover there. This Kraken punches hard, but Dangwu had a very good first turn.
And with that, Greg gets his last chunk in. I'm sure is about to make a real quick flight to the Temple of Fiends location, which is in our vanilla location this time.
That's a reset, yeah. So, didn't get enough Invis charges off fast enough, did spend a turn casting Wall, which was unfortunate as he did have 4 ribbons. So Kraken gonna be a problem. Also, we noticed that Knight actually got fairly lucky as with an additional Invis 2 stack actually did get one shot by Kraken. So Kraken not messing around. 2 Invis casters going to be critical here.
Greg dropping in and getting that ribbon that I'm sure Dang told him about, giving him, now we have everybody on screen every character on screen has got a ribbon. That is not something you see very often.
Yeah. When's the last time we've seen 16 ribbons?
I honestly can't remember.
So if you're Deng Wu right now, what are you telling Puff about this Kraken? Like, what strategic adjustments could we be seeing here? I think, obviously, not casting Wall, but I know that they're going to make that adjustment. What else can you do?
Honestly, anything that, like, if I had seen, whether it's spells, it's skills, it's just, hey, make sure you invis or you ruse or whatever it is, because he hits like a truck. Those are all very important things you are gonna want to make sure you tell your partner, because, like, now that you've seen it, you can adjust and you can get through it easier than, you may have, when you didn't the first time, and that information makes that dive and, those fights so much easier and safer for your partner to get through. With Dang and Greg right behind Thunderalo as Sir Link is on Lich. I believe Thunder is about Link's. We got Link on Lich. We got Dang get ready to take Lich. And Thunder just got done with Lich and is on his way to carry. So this is one extremely close race.
Puff resets for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but I didn't see it. But looks like he's going to come back. But I think at this point, it's unlikely for Puff to be able to catch up to Thunder a lot. But this is by no means a safe Temple of Fiends Revisited for Thunder a lot. So, this could be anyone wipes, and it's all back to the starting board again. The drawing board again.
And with that, we have 3 runners on the carry floor. My goodness.
So yeah, we didn't see much from Carry, mostly just, protecting up that White Mage with Ruse. I like that adjustment, saying, you know what, I can take most attacks, I just don't want my White Wizard to get one shot here. So that's going to be the one little defensive thing, and mostly just speed and power on this Carry. Yeah, and there we go, Carry goes down. We will have to see how Thunder deals with Kraken here. I think double Invis 2 turn 1, put up at least 1 Black Mage as a meat shield, and for Deng Wu in particular, I expect to see the Fighter staying up there to take a punch. Maybe in the second slot, and then the Ninja and the White Mage in the third and fourth slot is kind of the adjustments that I would be making. I'm not sure what Deng Wu is going to do, as Deng Wu has shown great ability with kind of a 4-person party where the Knight is kind of a tank, you have a healer, you have a buffer, and you have the damage dealer. Like, his characters have very defined roles. So we'll have to see what Deng Wu decides to do.
Yeah, as he's now taken down his second carry too, and is on our C4, headed back to Kraken, who I'm sure he's hoping, he's got that information from that first dive. He's got, it's going back and probably hoping, that Kraken 2's a little nicer this time around. And we'll be pulling Kraken 2 not long, like right behind Thunder, who just did, as Link enters Kraken's floor, so...
Okay, so small adjustment here by Thunder. So Thunder's deciding to go with 1 Invis 2 caster and Ruse on his White Mage. So this Kraken could take out anyone, but luckily punches the Sacrificial Lamb at the front. Knight in the second slot, which is probably makes a lot of sense. Needs a few more turns of Invis 2, but this could work out. This has not been the worst turn 1 for Thunder right now. Meanwhile, Deng Wu going with, I believe, double Invis 2 here, and going with a slow 2. Slow 2, of course, has the same chance to hit as Brack, so probably not something, but those double Invis 2 is a really good adjustment. Now, Thunder gets lucky, back rows a mage, but it's the right one. Didn't take out his White Wizard, as that was probably a one-shot. But Thunder getting up enough invasion stacks. This is looking pretty good. His White Wizard is up to max evade with this cast. Only 12 damage. This is looking really good for Thunder. Probably going to get through this Kraken here. And there he goes. Kraken doesn't have a ton of HP, so Deng Wu getting a little bit unlucky. You're going to have to see how Linkalot gets through and how Puff learns from his partner.
Thankfully, Deng Wu getting good turnover on that Cure 4, which brought that White Mage back up to full HP because Kraken was very unkind to that White Mage and had it down on a knee. So thankfully he's got that life caster back up and casting Lock 2, which will make this easy. And he's going for Fob 2 strikes and more slow too.
So the one thing right now, oh, actually also have noticed that he's still using the X-Cal on the Knight. So the Knight's going to have a little bit more trouble, but survives another big punch, needs some turnover on this Cure 4. Meanwhile, Thunderalot getting through onto Tia, and Gregglypuff has to reset again. This has been a big problem for Gregglypuff. But Linkalot also on Kraken. Now, Thunderalot's big problem is that we have not yet seen a Nuclear or a Nuke, and if these Black Mages go down turn 1 against Chaos, that could be a big issue. Oh no, Dangwoo down to no primary damage dealer. He's going to be trying to Quad X and nuke his way through Kraken. Gets through with the Quad X though. What a play by Dangwoo. Dangwoo showing how to get through adversity with the best of them. No resets here, gets through. Realizes now that that Kraken does not have a ton of HP. Now unfortunately, Life 2 the same level as Biz 2, so...
Being smart though, using that life instead of that life 2, because that life 2 is the same level as his Invis 2, uses that life 2 and then has like those Cure 3s on his slot 2, which just shares, you know, harm, I believe it's harm 4 and wall, and with 4 ribbons you don't really need wall. Mm-hmm. So that was a smart move on things part.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Thunder with 4 party members still up against this Tiamat, you know, multiple minutes into this fight, or not multiple minutes, but multiple rounds into this fight, that has to mean this fight is going well. So I would definitely expect Thunder to not have many major problems here. I still think the big risk here is big, non-elemental sweeper turn 1 that takes out all of his temper, fast, and lock charges. Dangwoo onto Tiamat, hopefully gets similar ability to get through. Meanwhile, Thunder onto the Chaos floor. The big boss themselves. Here we go. What adjustments does he make, if any? Looks like just a pretty classic setup here. Except Knight in the second slot instead of the third. This makes a lot of sense here. That Knight has a ton of HP because of the levels that are on it. Starting with Fast, Temper, and double Invis 2 kind of as you would expect. Fast gets off, good turn order. Invis 2 gets out. This is looking good to begin for Thunder. What does the big boss himself have? Temper also gets off. That's a big relief. Blaze, basically a free turn. Exactly the first turn that Thunder needed, and he's telling his partner right now, this Chaos opens with Blaze. That's what you want to hear, but you still don't know what the first spell is. It could be a nuke waiting around the corner. Temper is going to get cast. More Invis 2. Rue's not a priority. Lifecaster, not nearly as important. You really need that damage dealer to get big and get safe. Meanwhile, Gregglypuff on Lich, Dangwoo on Tia, Sir Linkalot also on Tia. This is a close race. First spell, nothing for Chaos. That Quad X not going to do much of anything. Get those Tempers out. We still don't know if this Chaos is evasive though, because we haven't seen a swing yet, so a preemptive lock is a good idea. There we go, lock comes out. Always hitting in this particular flag set, whether you like that or not. That's what we are right now, and this Knight's going to be hitting big here. Almost 1,000 damage. This Chaos is not going to be long for this world as we get up to huge evasion, huge damage. This is looking really, really good for Team Thunderalot as Gregglypuff, unfortunately, 2 Fiends behind Sir Linkalot, as I don't believe anyone's going to have a big Gatekeeper past that Kraken.
Yes, and as we have Thunder, who's still taking on that Chaos, Dangwoo is about to pull Chaos.
So Dangwoo going with this more typical tank, healer, and damage dealing with the Ninja. Has seen a lot of success. Almost no one else has gone with a Ninja throughout this entire tournament, but Dangwoo has consistently made it work as Thunder beats Chaos, gets through single Gs to Thunder, but remember, both players need to finish for them to win. So we will need to wait for Sir Linkalot to kill Chaos for this to be a victory for Thunderalot. So still a little bit more to get through, but unless Chaos has something nasty that we didn't see or something really unlucky happens, this is looking very, very good for Thunderalot.
you know, we had Thunder, who was just finishing up Chaos, and Dang pulled Chaos. We now have Dang on Chaos as Link pulls Chaos. So we're just rolling, just around the restream. Just everybody's pulling it one at a time.
But once again, Chaos not doing much on Sir Link-a-Lot side, and every single turn that you keep up 4 party members against Chaos is critical. The way that Chaos beats you down is by coming out with some big non-elemental or punching someone like turn 1, and that is just not the case with this Chaos. Has a little bit of HP, but nothing they're going to have any major issues with. So this is looking very clean for Thunderalo, a really nicely played seed. Dangwoo also defeating Chaos. So Dangwoo the second runner, but doesn't matter because it's all about the team here. And unfortunately, Gregglypuff still on Kraken. But yeah, Sir Link-a-Lot just getting all the time in the world here. Everyone's at great HP, you know, getting off all the casts. This Knight getting absolutely massive. This will just be maybe a few more swings, and this is going to be wrapping up here. Oh, still not doing much damage though, so definitely needs a little bit more work. But with the defensive spells up, is just mostly a matter of time unless Chaos manages to, you know, do something nasty through a ribbon. Needs to be casting potentially a little bit more Temper, and this is where that Red Mage is really making a big difference. Only one Temper caster, and not casting Lock with it is meaning that this Knight is getting up to speed a lot slower. Luckily had a lot of time to get defensive spells up, but if this Black Wizard got punched out turn 1, this could be a very different fight. Going with Red Wizard strats with Saber instead of trying to rely on Temper. Might be out of Temper charges. And Gregglypuff does get through Kraken too, so that's a big weight off his shoulders as he, you know, is pushing for the win here. But unfortunately, his opponent already on Chaos. Still not doing much damage though. This is a really slow fight, but everyone's still up all the time in the world still for Sir Link-a-Lot. Gonna chip away at this.
Oh yeah, saw him menu down. He is out of Temper charges. So while, you know, Chaos isn't really doing much, this up and well, there we go. Sir Link-a-Lot has terminated Chaos, so GG to Thunderalo.
Yeah, that Chaos, if I calculate correctly, had just over vanilla HP, so just really about as paper thin of a Chaos as you can get with these clams. So Kraken, the real gatekeeper. Thunderalo wins game 2, is going to be our first finalist. GG's to Team Thunderalo, Thunder and Sir Link-a-Lot. Yeah,
GG's to them both. Really well played seed. Honestly, really well played by like both teams, but you know, GG to them. Like you said, they are our first team to move on to the finals next week. So
looks like Gregglypuff's going to finish things off here, and I can't. Oh, actually, his White Mage is at 97 HP, but gets through that poison. But you know, barring unfortunate disaster there, should be relatively safe to get through here. But you can see the difference that even just going down to a single Black Mage early makes. This is going to be a much slower fight with only a single caster. Oh, trying to land Xfer. Can you give us the Xfer strats?
I mean, it's not a bad idea. It's really fun when they work. It's always nice to like land an insta-kill on like a fiend that you may not otherwise, like land Xfer, make it defenseless, and then like brack like Chaos or something. It's always nice beating Chaos, but it's even better if like you can brack them.
Yeah, absolutely. Winning is one thing, but winning with swag is entirely different.
Absolutely.
Perhaps not going to be using that brack though when it's his last remaining charge of Temper.
Yeah,
going
probably.
for slow 2 instead. Gonna do this a slow and steady way. Having Temper at level 7 and only one Black Mage left alive, definitely going to slow down this fight. So, you know, Gregglypuff really running into kind of the same situation that Sir Linkalot did against Chaos, and that got up the defenses relatively safe, but just has to punch and chip away a couple hundred damage at a time.
Yeah, it's nice when the fiends aren't doing anything to you. It feels a little bad though when like those fights take a while.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're racing. I mean, now that their
Oh, yeah.
opponents have not done, it's different. But like when you're just stuck on Tia, and you know that they're not doing anything, but that Tia can have 3,500 HP, you're just like, oh, come on, please, please, please.
Like internally humming the Jeopardy theme song.
Yep.
Just like
Or elevator music.
Yeah. Because it's a fight like that's slow feels real bad, but when you're racing, even if you like the other team is already done in this situation, it just makes it feel like it's so much longer.
Mm-hmm. But there we go. Gregglypuff gets through Tia, going to be our final runner to take on Chaos, and we will be seeing the Upstarts again in the bronze medal match between the loser of Team A versus the Crescent Lake Party Planners, with the second match of that series happening on Friday.
Yeah, I think we might know a little something about those teams.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a smidge.
Yeah, so if you want to see, we'll talk about it a little bit later. As Gregglypuff is pulling Chaos. Here we go. Let's get a little bit of hype for their last round in the official brackets, going with double invis 2 strategies, moving the knight to the final slot, which is a little bit different than what Thunder did. Gets a lock 2. You've seen a lot of people prioritizing getting lock over temper, and it's just because the Vorpal can crit through anything, but if you can't hit it, you can't. It's going to be a lot more difficult for you to do a lot of damage. So prioritizing an early lock 2 against these clamp bosses is not a bad call. So fast lock 2, double invis 2, overall still a good first turn. Yeah, continues to get good turn order. And once again, we know that this Chaos just does not have a ton of HP. That 249 damage is already 1/10. So this is at most like 10 turns away, assuming this knight just keeps on punching. And never mind the tempers and locks that are going to be coming out.
Yeah, and he already has all the information of like what Chaos does and doesn't have, and when it's like he's going to be get through this no problem.
Yeah, I did not see that Chaos had fast before, but that's a little scary. So fast can still crit you, and fast can still take out a big chunk of your damage. But Fog 2's coming out, and not plenty of invis. This shouldn't be any big concern. There we go. 5 hits, 500 damage. Chaos down to probably around half HP. Few more turns here. Just keep getting those locks, keep getting those tempers, and this Chaos will not be long for this world. Gregglypuff correctly saved a few charges against Tiamat, and that Chaos barely even tickling that White Wizard even after fasting. So there we go. 7 hits, 760. One more swing. Wait, swing. Let's go. Quad X. Darn it.
Oh, we're out of tempers.
Brack.
Where are we going? Nuke. There we go.
Making responsible decisions. There we go. 10 hits, 622 damage. Gregglypuff is done. An official time in chat of Team Upstarts finishing with an official time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 10 seconds, while Team Thunderalo 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 32 seconds. And we are joined in the booth by Thunderalo. I pulled them in, so hopefully they are here.
Hey, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, that's him. GG, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations on making it to the finals.
Yeah, we're there. I'm not sure who we'll see, but we're there.
So are we Thunder?
One of you two?
So Thunder, is the plan in the finals to exclusively go Thieves and White Mages?
Yeah, thanks, bud. I've been waiting for that to be the surprise, but okay.
No, but in all seriousness, great job. This was a really clean win for you two. Once again, I believe Sir Linkalot's Topher wipe in the previous matchup was the only wipe you've had so far in the Temple of Fiends Revisited, and got through again cleanly here. Any thoughts on the seed, or this kind of round in general?
This seed felt very imbalanced as far as who found all the shards in their dungeons. Mm-hmm. We both got 11 or 12 shards really fast, and then I was at 12 shards for 30 minutes, and he found 10 in dungeons, and then he just relayed that info to me where all the shards were, and I went and got them at the end after my grind, and we both ended up being, funny enough, entering Topher at the exact same time, even though our shard count was very, very drastically different and what we were prioritizing doing, like going back to get magic, doing our grinds, cleaning up fiends. We're all kind of doing everything in different orders and end up at the same place, same time.
Mm-hmm. That shard count discrepancy actually occurred on both teams. So I think it was just the fact that Sky 3 floor, one of the floors had like 5 shards. There was definitely a few dungeons that were very heavy. So we saw both streams where the bottom runner had was up 5 to 10 shards on their partner. We are also joined here in the booth tonight by, unfortunately, the losers of tonight's matchup, the Upstarts, Dangwoo, Gregglypuff. GG's, guys.
GG.
GG, guys.
Yeah, we're upset. Clearly, Thunderalo had paid off the Kraken 2. Unfair.
No, paid off Carry 2. So the Carry 2 decided not to cast any spells and just body all my characters.
No, I paid off Chaos to make sure I didn't get 3-2-56 again. That's where all
I during the Carry 2 battle, Dang's like, oh yeah, all she does is like spells. She's like, stop and fire 3. Mm-hmm. And then I go in there and she just immediately one-shots like my white mage and my black mage. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to reset. And then the second time through, all she did was spells. I was like,
yeah, that happened to me last race. Carry 2 one-shot my white mage and just ended up resetting.
Yeah.
Yeah, these clamps are mean business.
I didn't think Carry 2 hit very hard.
I literally saw 2 rounds of her, and I think I saw like some spell or skill that didn't do damage.
I mean,
and it was funny because we had 2 different Kraken battles because he had such a hard time with Kraken 2, and I made it through Kraken 2 on the first try.
Yeah, I did too, but I was super inflated. I was like in the 40s on my knight and white mage by the time I was doing Topher, and so I was like getting through fiends in like 2 turns, 3 turns, while Link was doing like 5 or 6 turns per.
You guys, I was like in low. I think I was 33, 34 when I went in.
No. We were about the same levels, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Upstarts were about the same, had about the same levels as you guys did. But all of you did like a 4-person party grind on your levels, while Thunder did like the fighter and the white mage and left like the black mages down and got those 2 characters up to like really high levels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wouldn't have mattered the levels at all because I think I would had to hit level 50 based on that Kraken 2 shot that hit for 900 on my knight.
Yep.
I mean, I was just like, cure 4 hits. I'm like, okay, I'm at max health. Cool. Bye. Okay. I guess I'm resetting out at this point. Okay.
Because there really wasn't much that you could put on the white mage to back up the strategy. Like if your damage dealer went down, your white mage wasn't going to be able to kill the fiend.
Yeah, we never found a Massa. I mean,
never that or any item magic either. That was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, item magic was total.
There was like none. There was like the X-Fur shirt and the pure stick is all I saw.
Yep, that's all I saw too. I
think complete opposite from Monday.
I mean,
Monday we had nice item magic and like no decent weapons for knights, and this one's like, hey, here, have Vorpals.
Yeah. And he did it out nice and early too. You couldn't use it, but it was still like kind of nice to see. Like, oh, okay, well at least I've got this for when I can use it.
Yeah, and the Sarias being right there at the beginning though. Did you guys take one of those with Quake and get like level 8 or 10 on your party? Yeah, that's what I did too. That was pretty nice to make the rest of the game a little safer.
Yeah, he went up to 14. I went to 11 and basically used the thief run chance to try and run from everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a small variation in grind. Some people were taking the eyes and some people were taking the Sarias. Was there any thoughts from either team on that?
Yeah, I told my partner not to take the eyes because they ambushed every fight I fought them, and they had stun touch. But I mean, with how fast eyes die and how much EXP they give compared to taking out Sarias sometimes, I think it worked out because I never got stuck in stun or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So it worked, but it was just annoying to be ambushed every single fight with them.
Yeah, I didn't like where they were located. That was the main thing, like with them being in Waterfall and like I don't know if they weren't the surface floor on.
No, it was the second floor.
Yeah, they were at least 2 floors down, and I don't know. Sarias were right there. You literally like 5 tiles in, and you're fighting Sarias.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sarias had like massive HP.
It
Yeah,
would have
those
been
eyes
so
actually
bad.
had less than 200, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't have been so bad except for I completely forgot to buy Nuke when I bought Nuke for my ninja. So I'm down there doing a Saria grind. I'm like, okay, cool, we're gonna go at this. Where's my Nuke at? All right.
I did Topher first, so.
Yeah, it was interesting, but I mean, it sounds so. You guys one shot at Topher.
Yeah.
So did we enter around the same time?
I think
you
looking at
entered-
time, you might have entered first, like a lot earlier than us.
Yeah, Dang, you were in first by a decent amount. And then you ended up finishing second overall. But Greg Leapuff entered
I'm happy with that.
last, I believe. And
Yeah.
then with the wipe on carry, was just a couple fiends behind.
Yeah, Ding, you were in first by about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What were your levels, Ding?
32 across the board.
Wow, that's pretty good for getting there as fast as you did.
Oh, the Greg's like, man, you're really cooking. I'm like, I'm feeling it. Like,
You
this
must
is
have been
game
the partner
2.
to get all
I'm
the
bringing it.
shards.
I mean, I did get most of the shards, but like, I felt quick, and then like after the wipe, I managed to get through Topher even quicker, and then obviously the Kraken almost killed me again because Kraken was cracking on me. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you go back and watch through the race, like on the restream, it was like the tale of two chunk counts. Because at the bottom you had Dang and Link who had like a ton of chunks on, like the two of them had it. And then like you have on top like Greg and Thunder who were very clearly much further behind than their partner was.
Mhm.
So it was like you could tell like after, like Dang had his or Link had his and everybody had their levels, like you could just see there was times where like Thunder, you and Greg were kind of in similar places and going to get chunks like your partners had told you, hey, there's some here, there's some there. And like could tell like that's what you guys were doing, just cleaning up where you knew that they were based on where your partners had found them.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it also saved time. What was it? We finally. I honestly think the Northwest, because we completely forgot about the crown turn-in, which led to Rod, which led into an amazing 6 like shards within 2 floors.
Yep.
And I mean, if we had remembered that we didn't do crown turn-in, I think we would have been in 5-10 minutes earlier. It was really dumb of us because we're sitting there grinding, and I'm just like, we haven't done this yet. Where's the crown at? Like, what's going?
Yeah.
And Greg's like, we haven't done Northwest. I'm like, what the? He's like, I thought you were doing it. I'm like, no, I thought you were doing it.
The usual story. I thought you were doing it. I thought you were doing it. What's happening?
I thought
We've
you
all
said you
been
were
there.
going.
That's how it went too.
Yeah.
Oh, but you haven't checked the shards there in the previous dungeon, but you're closer.
That's kind of how that went, actually. Jack,
If-
were you listening in on our comms?
Oh,
Because
this,
if it makes you feel any better, I guarantee y'all are not the only teams who have those conversations.
oh yeah, this is a universal co-op experience.
You didn't
So, yeah.
do it? I thought you were doing it. All right, well, I'll go do it.
So, going into the finals, Thunderalo, any kind of thoughts? Is there a certain opponent you want to take on? Is there any like of the flag set changes that you're concerned about? You don't have to give away all your cards, but just kind of any thoughts going into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at the next week flags to see what really changes in them, so I'm not sure there. But as far as opponents go, I mean, I don't know. It'd be nice to beat Spellzap.
So my bracket actually does have them beating us, and then you guys beating them in the finals. So I'm gonna win if that happens. I'll be I'll win in my heart. Moving over.
That's like as long as my bracket's intact.
Exactly. And also seeing Spellzap lose a game period is nice, is definitely nice to see once in a while. Moving over to Dangwoo and Gregglypuff, any thoughts as you get to go play into the bronze medal game?
Oh yeah, we get to do that. Greg, we get one more game.
Oh,
Yay!
that's right. I forgot we
don't retire. We don't retire right away.
I know. I thought we were hanging up our homemade tag team belts that we have. We call ourselves.
We spent like 2 hours on those too. It was fabulous, and the Thunderalo ruined it for us. Those jerks.
Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
One of these here comms folks you're gonna get Thunderlot next week, and then you guys are gonna get the other one in the bronze match.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I mean, I'm terrified. So, does that mean it's a best of 3 for the bronze?
No, probably
right.
just one off, right?
Probably one, but I mean, I guess it would be up to however the teams wanted to do it.
Best of 8.
I should know these things, but it's not
Best of
exactly
5? Best of 5?
God, no. God,
Right,
Best of
Thunderlot?
however many it
Yeah,
takes.
there we go. Best of 3. It's already locked in. Best of 3 for third place.
I like this.
So yeah,
I
so that's
mean-
something to definitely look forward to if you've been enjoying watching the Upstarts.
Yeah, I had a really good time, man. I think that these, I was kind of hating on the flags originally because of the shard hunt. I didn't feel like it was such a departure from last year. But the more we got into it, and the fact that they got pushed to beta made them a little bit easier, or not easier, but just more palatable for me. And I really enjoyed it. Like, I had a really good time. Dang and I think we played a lot better this year than we did last year. Obviously, we made it further, and we, at least for myself, I hoped we'd make it to the finals, but we kind of figured Thunderalo was going to have our number because they're really, really good. I mean, Link-a-Lot, Duckling Supreme, really awesome brand new runner, good at these randos, and of course Thunder, Mr. Spring Tournament over here, really awesome. So good luck to you guys going up against whoever you end up taking on in the finals.
Yeah, so speaking of the finals, the major changes are that we have Deep Topher, Random Wealth turns to Impoverished from Low. So, 4 ribbons, not as likely. And the clamps just continue to grow as we go up to 330%. So, those are some things that you have waiting for you in the final if you the challenge there. Passing it over, I believe with that we're going to start just taking our final thoughts here. We'll start off with, unfortunately the people in the bronze medal match, the Upstarts, the fan favorites. Dangwoo, any final thoughts?
No, not much. Thanks for you and Danny for doing the counter commentary. Really appreciate it. Shadow Flames doing the tracking. SG for allowing us, all the broadcast partners especially. Y'all have been awesome for letting us do this. And Greg, my partner in crime, whoever's coming for us in the third place match, be wary.
Yeah.
We're warmed up and we are a well-oiled machine that will argue with each other the entire way. Bring it.
Man, I can't wait to do the week 4 against them and get no weapons. It's gonna be awesome. Excal -4. Let's do it. Take the whole thing down.
I mean, you guys could make the agreement to do black belts.
I mean, we could. I guess at this point it doesn't really matter. So, that's up to Mr. Burt.
Hey, that sounds like a lot of assumptions of us.
Wow,
our
yeah,
game
I just
there.
got that. Wow.
No, I mean, I think Jat would be more willing to do it. Is all I was saying.
So what you're saying is you know who's going to be in your match.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. You guys haven't lost yet. You only lost the one race.
So passing it over to Mr.
It's all-
Smack talking here, Greg Lee.
Yeah.
It's
Any
okay.
final thoughts on
I
top of those
appreciate
sick
that,
burns?
Greg. It's like, it's all right. I appreciate
I
it.
was
Greg.
I was just going off of my tournament bracket the predictions. So no, really had a blast. Like I said earlier, I felt like I did more of a final thoughts thing just a second ago. But again, GG's to everybody that's been a part of this. It's been really awesome. Make sure you stick around for. I think the game between Crescent Lake and Team A is tomorrow night, correct? At 10?
Friday.
Friday at 10.
Friday at 10. Okay, so we get at least one day off. Maybe we'll do a weekly race. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Anyways, but no, we had a really awesome time, and best of luck to Thunderalo moving forward.
Thanks.
Passing it over to our winners and our first finalists, Thunderlot. Sir Link-a-Lot, do you want to lead off here?
Yeah, just thanks for doing the commentary, broadcast partners. Thanks for tracking. It's been a fun tournament so far. I'm looking forward to whomever we face in the finals. It should be a lot of fun, especially with the new flags, and we'll see how everything happens.
And finally, Thunder, any final thoughts before I pass it over to my co-com, Stanley, to wrap things up?
No, it's been said, but tournament's been great. Love co-op. Hopefully we keep doing more co-op things each year at least, and keep the fun going.
Perfect. And with that, I'll pass it over to Danny to wrap things up, as I have no other final thoughts other than to thank Speed Gaming for hosting us and our tracker once again. So Danny, take us home.
I'll do my best. Just want to say, GG again to both teams. Congratulations to Team Thunderlot for making it into the finals. To the Upstarts, a team that we all love and appreciate and like to watch play, just because it's good times all around. So, you guys, good luck in your third place match, whoever you get. And yeah, just thanks to, Jat for doing comms with me today, Shadowed for doing our tracking, Speed Gaming for having us, and just for everyone who watched and who's been watching our races and participating, in chat, and all the other teams who have participated so far. Like, the tournament is only as great as the people who volunteer to make it happen in our broadcast, our crew and all the teams that have participated. So, a big thank you to everyone who's taken part and made our tournament as awesome as it has been so far. And with that, like they said, we have the rest of the semifinals coming up the rest of the week. Game 2 with Team A and the Crescent Lake Party Planners Friday at 10. If we go to Game 3, probably Saturday. It's not on the schedule yet. Yeah, and then the finals next week. So if you want more information, you can join the Discord. You can find all the information there on races. And if you just want to play, join and play. We all have a great time playing, and we love having new people come and learn and join and enjoy the game that we love. So with that, I'm just gonna say GG again to everybody, and thanks to everyone watching. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening.